Lovely and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. For today's preview, as the world number 2 France, Six Nations champions, Grand Slam champions, take on Australia. And I think it could be a very long night for Australia. It's a very good French side being picked, and a lot of Springbok fans will be very eagerly watching this match to see what they can expect next weekend at Stade de France when the world champions clash with the current Six Nations champions and the World Cup hosts for Rugby World Cup 2023. And Australia, coming off the back of a victory against Scotland, wasn't particularly convincing because Scotland, if they nailed that last kick for Blair Kinghorn, would have actually won the clash. However, this Australian side is very inconsistent, to be honest, and they are a side that on this day can probably compete with most sides, you know. But also they can very much lose to a lot of teams out there, and I think that if you look at Dave Rennie's, for example, win percentage, not particularly good. So I think if he had lost to Scotland last week, I think it could have been a very long tour for him. But there are a side where they do pitch up. They've got some good players. They've got some game changers on it. And interesting to sort of see how those sort of players go this weekend. Before we look at the two sides, please do smash a like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll start with the home side, which is France. It'll be captained by Antoine Dupont, who is a man that can do very little wrong at the moment. Has been very good over the last 2 years. World Player of the Year. And will be expected to be one of the big stars for the Red World Cup next year. But the bigger news for me in the front row is the fact that Cyril Bailly is back in the squad and is available and has been selected. He hasn't played a lot of rugby this season and comes straight back in and does start at loose here next to Julien Marchand, who up next to Malcolm Marx. I think he's probably one of the best hookers in the world. Then you got Uni Antonio at tight end. In the second row, you got Cameron Walker, Tabata Clement, no Paul Willemse. So it's a little bit of a lightweight a second row really for France, and so I think that'll sort of affect the scrums a little bit. But it's such a nice, exciting trio, and the likes of Anthony Gillon, Charles Olivan, and Gregory Aldred, who, again, next to like Artie Severe, probably one of the best eights in the world. Antoine Dupont does partner Romain Intermac. Again, somebody who's not played a lot of rugby this season, but when he plays well, when he cooks, is that they're a pleasure to watch as a combination, and very excited to see how he goes. Again, from a Springbok point of view, very keen to sort of see how these players like Cyril Bailly and Romain Intermac, whose quality we don't doubt, but form maybe and sort of match fitness could be a little bit under scrutiny. In terms of your back three, you've got Jerem Moefana, Damien Pinot, and Thomas Ramos at fullback. In the centre, you've got Jonathan Dainty and Gael Fiku. Huge Gael Fiku fan. I think that he is one of the most all-rounded, solid players in the world. I think, his defensively he's very good. On the attack, he's very good. He's a very intelligent rugby player. He reads the game very well. He's a pleasure to watch, to be honest. He's a very nice example of, as a young player or a young fan watching somebody who just understands the game. Like Lekanya, for example, I really do think Gael Fiku is in a similar mold. Then off the bench, you've got Peter Mavaka, Danny Priso, Sipili Falati as the reserve front row. Romain Tuafafana is on the bench. A couple of people surprised he's not getting a start. You then got Kylian Garashi, Seko Matlu, Maxime Luchu, and Mathieu Jalibert all coming off the bench there as well. Jalibert, not class operator. I'd be very surprised. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him starting next week, actually. And then if we look at the Australians, 4 changes to the starting lineup, including a backing of Jock Campbell at full back in just his second test for the Wallabies. Up front, James Slipper, Dave Parecki, but Tanita TUPOU comes in. No Alanto this weekend. He has been ruled out with a concussion, so TUPOU will get an opportunity to run out in the starting lineup. Nick Frost, Karen Neville in the second row. Jed Holloway, Michael Hooper, Rob Baltini. It's an unchanged loose trio there. Michael Hooper looked close to his best last weekend, and Australia looked like a whole different side with him in it. So really good to see that Hooper is back and playing well. Nick White gets an opportunity. No Tate McDermott in the 23 this weekend. He partners Bernard Foley, who kicked very well off the tee last weekend. You then got Tom Wright, Andrew Kellaway, Jock Campbell as your back three. Lalaka Faketi comes into the inside centre position. He partners Len Ikatal. And then off the bench, Falal Fainga, Matt Gibbon, Tom Robertson. Will Skelton comes into the bench. Been playing some fantastic rugby in the top 14. A lot of people calling for him to be part of the squad. He did join the squad earlier this week and does an opportunity off the bench. Then Pete Samuk, sort of completing the front or the forward replacements there. Jake Gordon comes into a 23. Hunter Basami drops down to the bench, and Reece Hodge will provide a lot of experience coming off the bench in the last stages of the game. Let me know what you think is going to happen down in the comments below. I do think that France, should in theory get the victory. I'm interested to see how the packs compete. I do think that second round France is a little bit lightweight without Paul Willemse, so that will be an interesting part that Springboks will be looking at, thinking, well, if they've tied fives a little bit off, that's somewhere we can really sort of attack France next week. But it should be a really interesting clash, and it's sort of the last clash on Saturday, and what is really a super Saturday of rugby. Join me for the watch logs. We'll be live throughout the weekend. We'll see you guys all there. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.